This is Will Robbie
and Sarah Scully for IFC News. The general election is half underway. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are still competing, much to the consternation of many Democrats.
First, they thought the early states would determine the nominee. Then it was Super Tuesday, then Ohio and Texas. So now what? We're going to take a look and see how we got to where we are today.
The fact is, we generally have nominees by March. This time we'll go a little longer on the Democratic side, maybe a lot longer.
I'm glad the process has gone on. I'm glad our candidates have become stronger. I'm glad more people have been involved. And very shortly, I think it's time for us to conclude this process and move into the general election mode.
But how will it conclude? The Democratic race is as deadlocked as ever.
The first part of the last month belonged overwhelmingly to Obama. We may in retrospect look back and say he built an insurmountable delegate lead. On the other hand, the second part of it belonged to Hillary Clinton because of Ohio and Texas. And we might look back on that in retrospect and say that was the beginning of a resurrection.
When Super Tuesday failed to turn out nominees, many looked to Ohio and Texas to conclude the process for both parties.
A few months ago, my sister and I were both like, oh, it's not going to matter. We're not going to have all the attention. We can't believe we're March 4th. We're one of the biggest states, and it's just awesome seeing all the support, both sides of the party, everyone coming out and voting.
Clinton was able to put off the obituaries by saying it all comes down to Ohio and Texas.
After declaring both states must-win contests, Hillary Clinton triumphed in Ohio and edged out Obama in the Texas primary. And she gained enough ground to continue her campaign.
One of the things that's always interesting about politics, and heartbreaking if you're on the wrong side of it, is how small margins make huge differences.
So Hillary Clinton wins Ohio, she wins Texas, at least she wins the primary part of Texas, but she can't gain ground. It's this game of inches now. And even if she goes on to win state after state after state, the mathematics of her getting ahead in the pledged count are so difficult that it's hard to conceive of her winning.
No matter what happens, we have nearly the same delegate lead as we did this morning, and we are on our way to winning this nomination.
Once you get ahead in the race, in the delegate count in the Democratic Party, it's very hard to lose it again, and it's very hard for someone in second place to come up in first place.
She feels she'd be not just a better president than Barack Obama, but a stronger candidate against John McCain. She has to balance all of that, plus her personal ambition, with her knowledge that as this race goes on, it does hurt the chances of whoever the Democratic nominee is to win.
John McCain made official the Republican nomination with his win in Texas.
My friends, we have won enough delegates to claim with confidence, humility, and a great sense of responsibility that I will be the Republican nominee for President of the United States.
With the added pressure of McCain starting his general election campaign and 8 weeks until the next major primary, the Democrats engaged in a back-and-forth war of words.
It seems almost as though they've got nothing better to do but attack each other.
Yeah, I think Pennsylvania is not till April 22nd, and it's a lifetime in politics. So I think that Clinton will continue to play for some kind of a break to change the momentum. Obama has always been in this kind of awkward position where he doesn't want to hurt his brand by engaging too much, so he has his surrogates do it and sort of knife her, without his fingerprints on it. Campaign surrogates were on the front lines of this increasingly bitter tit-for-tat.
This may be the year we decide surrogates just aren't worth it. Surrogates were supposed to be originally a way of covering more ground. The candidate couldn't be every place, so you used the surrogate, and the chief surrogate was the spouse. The advantage of the surrogate was also that if the surrogate screwed up and said something too outrageous, you could say, it's just a surrogate, that doesn't count.
The press has gotten in its head that a candidate If they're supported by someone, if they've ever met someone, if they've ever said something nice about someone, then they're responsible for everything those people have said.
And you have to actually fire them or get them to resign if they go too far.
I think it's gotten a little bit ridiculous, but the reality is, in this media environment, candidates have to at least respond to, in most cases, controversial things their supporters say.
The first shot was fired by Obama foreign policy advisor Samantha Power, who described Hillary Clinton as a monster who would do anything to win.
The word monster was an impolitic one to pick, but she really didn't say anything all that terrible. But it's become this grand game, and the media plays a part in the grand game. Oh, they've gone too far. Oh, the candidate has to announce them, then they have to resign. They have to be thrown off the sled. They have to be ground into dog meat. Their name can never be said again. They can't be on a stage with them.
The next blow came from Clinton supporter Geraldine Ferraro, who said if Obama was a white man, he would not be in this position. And if he were a woman of any color, he would not be in this position.
I was celebrating the fact that the black community in this country has come out with a pride in historic candidacy and has shown itself at the polls.
I didn't think Geraldine Ferraro, even though what she said was stupid, should, have to leave whatever committee. I don't like that kind of thing. We're always having to, discipline your surrogates. Let people say what they want.
Ferraro's comments were just the beginning, as race became the #1 issue when videos of Obama's former pastor, Jeremiah Wright, were discovered.
And then wants us to sing God Bless America? No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America that's in the Bible for killing innocent people.
To counter the fallout, Obama gave a much-talked-about speech on the state of race relations in America.
Thank you.
Obama was not given the option of giving that speech from his political perspective. He had to give a speech to try to get people onto what he wanted to talk about.
I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community. I can no more disown him than I can disown my white grandmother, a woman who helped raise me, a woman who sacrificed again and again for me, a woman who loves me as much as she loves anything in this world, but a woman who once confessed her fear of black men who passed her by on the street, and who on more than one occasion has uttered racial or ethnic stereotypes that made me cringe.
He could have given a much more political speech. He could have given a much more soothing, comforting speech. He didn't do that, and he gets points for that.
The irony is he's someone who transcends race personally and someone who would like to have race be an issue that does not dominate American politics in a negative way. And yet now he is being defined for at least some voters around issues of race and around issues of patriotism in a way that's very uncomfortable to handle. The speech certainly helped him, but may not go far enough for some voters.
The speech won over Bill Richardson, who promptly endorsed Obama.
Is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our nation, and you are a once-in-a-lifetime leader.
This, however, invited the verbal grenade of James Carville, a one-time Clinton strategist who publicly called Richardson Judas.
This was a particularly disloyal thing to do, and that's my view. I was speaking for myself, not speaking for anybody else, and that's my judgment then. It's my judgment now.
I don't want to get into the gutter like that. I want to stay positive. I think it's going to hurt his own candidate.
Next, Bill Clinton made a comment that some say questioned Obama's patriotism, stating, "I think it would be a great thing if we had an election year where you had two people who love this country and were devoted to the interests of this country."
Obama's senior advisor, General Tony McPeak, fired back, accusing the former president of modern-day McCarthyism.
I'm sad to see a president employ these kind of tactics.
It used to be that the adjectives were much more creative and more vicious in the old days of politics. I mean, if you go back, people, the candidates would say this stuff like, he's nothing but a little pissant,
The next big contest is Pennsylvania, and following that, North Carolina and Indiana.
The registration just keeps going up and up and up wherever the next stop on the road show is, and it's up in Pennsylvania, which is voting April 22nd, and the Democratic Party is just pleased as punch. I mean, it almost doesn't matter who wins, just as long as you get voters to register, because they're likely to come out and register in November. But it's a sign of how excited voters are, and it also may be a sign that voters, unlike the world-weary media, doesn't want this race to be over.
Clinton has emphasized her popularity in Pennsylvania as a key indicator of her electability.
If she wins the Pennsylvania primary, and she wins it convincingly, she gets a ticket to go even further and tries to figure out, as Obama is, how to compete very fiercely for this nomination without doing damage to the party.
And if somebody broke the mold here, i.e. if Obama won Pennsylvania, if Hillary Clinton won North Carolina, so that we confounded expectations, then I think everything would move.
Her problem is she has to win by about 20 points for it to even be meaningful in momentum terms, and she cannot overcome his lead in the pledged delegates.
Clinton hoped her victories in Michigan and Florida would count, but the DNC rejected the results, punishment for moving their primary dates too early.
You really have to make rules and then stand by them. And in fact, all of the states have representatives on the DNC. They all voted in support of these rules. So then to sort of at the last minute say, only kidding, just is really not appropriate for the national party.
To have a convention where, for example, someone wants to get the nomination by saying, let's seat a Michigan delegation that was elected in a primary that Brezhnev could have run, where there was only one candidate on the ballot. I mean, it's, the perceived unfairness of that would do enormous damage to the Democratic Party.
But even if those two states were seated, and under the best case scenario of her winning 55 to 60% in all the remaining primaries and caucuses, she would still get to Denver behind in the pledged delegates.
But these states are not going to end the deadlock either, as the DNC will seat them in a manner fair to both candidates.
I wouldn't be surprised if we all don't find some way to make it possible for folks to be seated from those two states, but not if it's going to change the course of this nomination.
With a pledged delegate count so close, the nomination will likely come down to a few hundred unpledged delegates referred to as superdelegates. But what exactly is a superdelegate?
Superdelegates came about in the 1980s. They are comprised of elected Democratic officials and select party members. These distinguished leaders are free to vote however they choose at the convention to nominate their candidate for the White House.
No one ever talked about superdelegates before. The entire race, all these hundreds of millions of dollars spent, all these thousands of hours, thousands of speeches, it all gets down to this handful of superdelegates who are uncommitted and how they will eventually vote.
Superdelegates are a really bad idea. We never should have had them. We should just get rid of them. The underlying notion was that somehow or other the superdelegates were a check on the process to keep the people from running away with it. I mean, if the voters want somebody and they vote for them, you can't have a bunch of party hacks or distinguished senators, however you want to characterize them, come in and say, by the way, we don't care what you think, we're going to do this.
Superdelegates, most of us, are some of the hardest working, most decent folks in politics. I think being an elected official or being someone who works in the party, who believes passionately and supports governance and doing the best we can for the most people in America, should be considered honorable.
Like it or not, superdelegates will decide the nomination so long as both candidates remain in the race.
The unfunny side of it is the serious train wreck that occurs if these superdelegates overturn the will of the people, especially in the first time we have a serious African American candidate.
My hunch is that after Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Indiana, we'll have a pretty good sense of the direction that this is going, although it still may be tight, and you will begin to see more and more superdelegates move by the beginning of July.
Though Obama's ahead for now, the Clinton campaign has no intention of giving up.
It's fine to do analysis about Hillary Clinton's chances. I think those who say she's got no chance are just wrong. Those who say she's got an equal chance are wrong. Her chance is somewhere between, I'd say, 12% and 40% on any given day.
The downside for the Democrats is that John McCain appears to be benefiting from their prolonged battle.
Both Hillary Clinton and Obama have fallen behind. If your opponents are in the middle of what could be a train wreck, don't throw yourself into it. Stand at the side and watch.
Of Obama and Clinton, who do you think would be easier for McCain to beat?
Any one of them. I don't see a problem for McCain.
I don't buy this idea that an endless process is exciting, energizes our voters, energizes our base. And in fact, you're beginning to see signs in the exit polling that the supporters of one candidate are saying they won't support the other if the other is the nominee.
People are concerned, and I think genuinely concerned, because you don't like to give a lot of ammunition. And sometimes in the heat of a campaign, campaign operatives or supporters, occasionally even a candidate, might say something that could be turned around and we might spot it in an ad in November. And I understand that and appreciate it, and sometimes agree that, gee, that wasn't the most special thing I would have liked to have heard today.
With these concerns, some are calling for Hillary Clinton to drop out.
They're not going to quit. I mean, I argued that it would be better for her politically in the long term for her to get out graciously, but she's under no obligation to, take my or anybody else's advice. And I think, if Hillary were smart, after she wins Pennsylvania by, 6 or 7 points, get out. And then she would look like a heroine, a heroine. She would be considered to be, gracious, and everybody would forget about all this nastiness. And she'd go out on a high note.
Should we place our bets?
I wouldn't bet on it.
Though it's been a bitter struggle, the party still has faith in the political process.
This is historic, and this is different, and this is important, and I think that it has been a wonderful opportunity to mobilize and motivate people to join in the process.
So it's been about as unpredictable and exciting as politics gets.
We'll be reporting from the upcoming primary states, so stay tuned to IFC.
For more Uncut election coverage and our blog, check out ifc.com.
Are you following the presidential election?
You betcha I am.
Do you know what a superdelegate is?
I think I do.
What is it?
It's a delegate with a red cape and a big S.
That was good, that was good. Do you know what a superdelegate is?
No.
Oh, really?
No, I have no idea what a delegate is. I don't know what anything about that is.
Are you cringing or enjoying the Democrats tearing each other up right now?
Well, I don't think it's really good for the Democratic Party. I think, honestly, someone should probably step aside.
Do you enjoy watching the Democrats destroy themselves?
I enjoy watching them sling mud. Yes, sir, I do.
Are you paying attention at all to the Democratic Party right now, what's going on over there?
I am when I have a chance, and it's very interesting. I just think that it kind of reminds me of kids on an elementary school field. Everybody's just, fighting back and forth. It's like they're playing tag at recess and pushing each other, and the guy's pulling the girl's hair. It's, it's very funny. It's people. It's like, I don't know, it's a game.